Greetings and good evening, my dear esteemed guests and subscribers. I am, of course, none other than your Shogun, Sugi here, and today I'm very delighted to review this anime original series by Netflix that came out in June called Record of Ragnarok, Shumatsu no Valkyrie in Japanese, which, by the way, directly translates to Valkyrie of the End, which should be the English translation of the anime, but due to the fact that this anime is about battle between gods and humans in this tournament, which is called Ragnarok, I kind of understand why they went with this name. Then again, it could have been Battle of Ragnarok, War of Ragnarok, the Tournament of Ragnarok, but whatever, I am okay with this name. Now, before we jump into my actual personal take on this anime, I first want to break down a bit of the premise, what is it exactly about, and also talk about other people's reviews on this anime. So first and foremost, this takes place in the realm of the gods, and they have assembled after 1,000-year hiatus, and all of them are now together in this giant coliseum, and they have basically decided that we're gonna be extincting all the humans because they haven't improved, and they are always the same, and they are bad, and etc, yada yada yada. And then this character comes out, which is basically the main character of this anime, Brunhild, who is a Valkyrie. That's where the real name comes from, and she is half god, half human, and she proposes kind of in a cheeky way that, hey, let's have a tournament where the humans can prove themselves as equals or better, and the gods are obviously very amused and very cocky that humans possibly can't beat us. And basically, then they agreed, we're going to be doing this tournament where there's 13 battles, god versus human on each one of them. And you're going to be seeing obviously a lot of popular gods, you know, from the Greek pantheon, the Norse pantheon, the Roman pantheon, I suppose, I guess, too, and obviously the Hindu gods, and your Buddha is there, Jesus and Muhammad, I didn't see them, for obvious reasons, obviously, and so there's a lot of, like, deities and gods there from popular things, and basically, and then there's obviously popular humans, like Lubu, known from Romance of Three Kingdoms. You have Jack the Ripper, Adam, the first human. So a lot of different characters, and obviously some people can make the case as well. It would have been cooler to see Spartacus or Genghis Khan. Those are the ones that I would like to see, but obviously I don't think those are ones that we're going to be seeing. I could be wrong about it, but basically that is kind of the premise, and the anime features the first 3 fights and kind of beginning of the 4th one, and there's kind of 12 episodes. And there is a bit of a background story explored on each of the gods and each of the humans that are appearing. So you kind of get a familiar, what is the story of Adam, what is the story of Zeus, Poseidon, all of that stuff. It's kind of like explored, which is good, I guess, for those who are not very familiar with these characters. I was pretty much familiar with pretty much all except one. But now there's obviously been a lot of reviews that have been very critical about the anime, and most of the criticism, or 98% of it, has been about the animation, and the 2% was perhaps about the pacing, which I do agree on, that sometimes these flashbacks were too long and the fights were prolonged because of that, and we could have just had more, precise fighting and, more boxed in on smaller episodes, but that's something that's always going to be splitting some heads. Now, when it comes to the animation, I think it's, first of all, really important what you are actually comparing it to. Japanese animation studios are world-renowned. There's only few studios in Korea and Philippines who can make equal type of a content or equal amount of skill. So when you really compare the animation to any Western production, I think this is very, very high-end. But obviously people are always comparing it to the very best studio, what is that is Ufotable or Bones or Mappa, for example. And I think it's a bit unrealistic, especially because people don't really understand that we are in the pandemic right now, so that is a one thing. Production for animation has been increasing, and orders for them have been increasing a lot during the last 2 years. And these guys, these animators, are literally working for shitty pay. Their pay is shit. There's no mistake about that. And the problem here is that how you're going to be motivating animators to do their excellent, most fantastic quality when they're paid really badly and they are crunch timing. There's literally like these animation studios are like taking 8 projects at the time, and they are really being time crunched. They don't have the time to polish these animations and the quality because you have these unrealistic demands that are put on them, and no other animation studios do this over the seas. Where they're working like, I don't know, 60, 70-hour weeks, and they're working on their free time as well. It's just a time question in a lot of these things. And also, it's a problem of this anime community being really hung upon on this very superficial, understanding of anime, that it's all about the pretty colors and all that stuff. And I think that just tells you about how superficial the community is, rather, judging the book by its, content than the cover. Now, and that's all I want to talk about the animation. Yes, there were maybe some parts that looked weird. I've seen a lot worse, obviously, and in Japanese animation. Specific Naruto episode comes into my mind. But, I mean, I think it was good, and a lot of people were crying about it, too many still images or something like that. I don't think those are bad. It didn't break my immersion. Obviously, the manga art seems pretty good and very detailed, and that are always kind of hard to transition over into animation, whatever it's One Piece or Hitman Reborn comes into my mind, where the manga art and the anime art are very different because they're very hard to replicate on an animated setting. Now, what comes to the anime itself, so Maxim the Hormone is the opening song, by them is the opening song, great band. Wasn't really lit by this specific song, and the ending song, I think though, as Steve for me, was pretty not rememberable at all. The opening song you can remember it, but it was not best song by Maximum the Hormone. So I'm not very, speaking favorably of the OST here. Nothing too great in my opinion. Voice actors, pretty much all the same people you hear on every other anime. Another rant I could talk about for another 15 minutes. Long story short, I feel like there's lack of diversity in the cast. I feel like 20 people are voicing like millions of characters across all Japanese entertainment right now. Needs more new talent, new voices in. I'm tired of hearing the same people over and over again. I mean, they're great, but they get old at some point, always. And one of the best appeals to this is, the anime, is that Brunhild is not fighting herself in the pits. She's the main character, sort of. The main character is kind of the humanity as a whole, in my opinion. And when the battle happens, the fight match up between one another, because you don't have a main character, the gods only fight in one battle. You don't have an idea who's going to win. I literally had no idea on the first and the second. I didn't know actually any of the conclusions. On the third fight, I knew the results of the first two. I kind of knew what would happen. But, I mean, the first two matches, for example, I had no idea who was going to win. And the fourth match, I also have no idea who's going to be winning. And that's kind of the beauty of this series, because it's just a tournament arc. That's what the anime is about. And it's all about these compelling side characters from our favorite real-life characters and gods. And you don't know who's going to win. And that's the really the beauty of this series, in my opinion. That you don't know who's going to win, and that's why it makes the fight exciting. There are a lot of other tournament arcs where the main hero is fighting or something like that, and the results are kind of like predetermined in the sense that you kind of know who's going to win and who's going to lose. In this situation, you really don't. You expect, obviously, that this is going to be going into all the 13 matches. I mean, that would make the most sense, I guess. But then again, you don't know what surprises are going to be happening. And, in terms of the overall plot, I mean, that's pretty much it. There seems to be that some other characters are plotting something a bit different and might be doing some moves there and there, perhaps. It's going to be interesting to see how the finale or the latter parts of the anime are going to be turning out. But I did find it enjoying, guys. I did find it in some way enjoying fighting, even though it's not the best. It's not like Baki had a lot of really crazy cool fights, which this didn't. King Inashura also had great fights. But this also had good fights, and the first and the second one were great. The third one, not so much. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I mean, it's not the best anime that Netflix has produced, and it's not the worst either. And I can understand the critique if only that you care about is the animation, and your frame of reference is comparing to the crazy, amazing art in the manga, which realistically cannot be adapted into fine detail without having so much time. And it seems that a lot of these Netflix anime are done on a very, very low time frame altogether. So like they have literally very few amount of time to actually produce it. I mean, like, you got deadline in 6 months or something crazy. So I think people have to be a bit more understanding about the current situation, and also like how the time windows that these guys have to work on the animation are very unrealistic, and they are overworked, and there's so many reasons for that. But thanks for watching, guys. I will be reviewing some other anime, especially from Netflix, in the upcoming days, but stay tuned for that. Until then, see you soon.